Hello, welcome to the Reach and Eating podcast. This is our 7th episode. This is a podcast involving the development team of Gears of Eden, an indie space adventure game that explores a sentient world of robots and mystery and space and all that kind of cool stuff. Today we have our usual members. We have Sledge, our creative director, with us. How are you doing, Sledge?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. We also have Eric, who is the lead writer for the game. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You're doing well. Great. And rounding out the team is me, Michael, your favorite member, and I help manage the project.
I thought I was the most favorite.
I am the voice of this development team.
I think we should go to the polls run by me, and they all say, yes, I am the most favorite. Thank you.
Don't make us start the polls again.
So in this episode of Reach and Eden, we're going to be going over some of the big updates that we have for Gears of Eden. And then we'll be talking about our inspiration, the stuff that makes us get up in bed and question why we do this every day. And then there's other times after that we're going to be going into the games that we've played, and we'll end it off on that. So, guys, I hope you had a good week or two, because we're about to get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So for the Gears of Eden updates, we got some great stuff going on. If you guys were not listening to the last podcast, which I don't understand why you wouldn't, so we're not going to even explain that. You know the situation. The alpha is out.
Don't argue with the audience yet.
Don't argue with the audience.
As I was saying that, I was joking, actually.
Yeah. Don't you argue with me.
If you hear that again and when you're editing this and you hear me kind of cry as I say it, that's why.
So yeah, the alpha is out. We have people actually playing the game. They're giving feedback, and we feel delighted, I think, is kind of the general consensus on the team.
Delighted, amazed, really, really amazed.
One of the things we wanted to discuss was how many keys we've been sending out. And Sledge, I think you have the numbers for us, right?
Yes, I do. I have the numbers. So we've sent out a little over 200 keys right now, actually. And we're seeing about a 25%, I guess, execution rate on those keys, where people are going and downloading and getting into the game. So we're going to continue slowly rolling out more keys so people can still sign up. It's not too late. We're going to keep this alpha running for a while and just sort of keep expanding it out. But so far, that's a pretty good rate. We're a little, unsure if some of the emails are landing in people's junk mailboxes and stuff like that. So please check your junk mail and continue to let us know on social media if you want to get in a group right away, and we'll be sure to move you into an earlier group.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And it's, you actually talk about the whole junk mail and all that stuff. So, that's kind of one of the big things that we've been having to discuss is if you do want to get your project out there, kind of share it with people. One of the easiest ways is through newsletters. People who are interested don't mind giving you their email so you can give them more updates for it. It becomes an issue, though, when it is put in the junk mail and people don't normally check their junk mail.
Yeah. I never check mine.
I never check mine.
I don't check mine either.
Unless I'm specifically signed up for something, and then I look for the email to confirm it,
yeah.
And then I don't see it, and that's the only time I check my junk mail.
And then when you get in there, it's really scary, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
This is oh my god, this is what the mail's protecting me. Thank you, mail.
And that's what by far I get so much more junk mail than regular mail. I don't know what that says, but
you're a believer of projects. That's what it says. But yeah, so even though people are kind of getting in junk mail, I think the 25%, that's what we said, right?
That's the percent of people who are, executing and going. Yeah. So I know other people are probably, have it on the back burner or going to do it eventually. So
I feel 25% is amazing. That is...
It's a good number.
If we sent out 200 keys, that is 50 people that have actually played the game or at least opened the game.
Yeah.
That is awesome. We want to thank you guys for kind of deciding to spend some of your time with our game. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and appreciate the surveys and the bug reports and all that stuff. It really helps us a lot.
One of the other things that we wanted to discuss real quickly was the fact that we kind of actually released one of our first patch updates and, kind of help change the code to kind of in response to your guys' survey notes. Sledge, you want to talk about that really briefly?
Yeah, and that's a great point. We had a couple people that had posted videos up showing their gameplay, and I realized they didn't have text in the game. They weren't seeing the dialogue. And so That was a great bug that was caught. We went and looked at it, and we decided that that's something that needs to be fixed right away because we didn't want people playing the game without getting, the text that we worked so hard to put in there. And it's sort of the only thing that provides some context of what you're doing and starts building the world and building the very first foundations of the narrative. So we went ahead and fixed that and got that out. And
from a writing perspective, like, that's something actually I want tested to see.
Yes.
How people like want that voice to be, what they're comfortable with, what is going too far for them, or what is like too mundane for them. So there's actually a wide range of voices that you'll find in the dialogue, and without you being able to actually see it, you cannot give the writing team a very important part of, or very important chunk of feedback.
Yeah, and we want people like creating these videos that other people are going to be watching, and also people miss out on the context that way too. So not even just from the gameplay, which is most important, but also just from sort of a cross promotion perspective.
Well, it was also just something where it was kind of like the heart and soul of this small little not even demo, just this small little gameplay portion where this was kind of the only way for us to express like what the mood of the game would be like. So if people are missing out on that, then it's missing a lot of the soul that we want to kind of share with people.
Yep. So if you've already downloaded the alpha and played it and you're on 1.0.0, you can go and download a new version that's 1.0.1. Anyone that is getting into the game now will already get that new version. But if you don't want to upgrade, basically when the bug happens, it's when you start a game and go back to the main menu and then start a game again. To fix it, you could just shut down the program completely and restart, and that will give you the text back. I also want to mention, like in this update, since we were doing it, we had already put a few more assets in the game. Just some, we did a camera fix, and we added some new art into the game, especially on the main base. So that's just some additional bonus eye candy in there for you.
Yeah, all about that space candy. Another thing I wanted to discuss, though, about the patch updates was it's kind of cool being able to put something out and then see what needs fixing, and then being able to go and fix it. I don't know if you guys are feeling this, but I've always been fascinated when like actual like professional game devs have to go into the game and kind of give these patch updates to fix little things. And I'll be honest, I probably don't read like 99% of it, but actually being part of the experience now, just seeing all this stuff, seeing all this feedback we've been getting, and then actually responding to that feedback is kind of this cool like dynamic that I've never experienced before.
And our patch note is like 5 lines long, so you can get that.
Oh yeah,
you can get that completion and read the whole thing very quickly.
Yeah, that just leads you to believe that the game is perfect, which it is, right? Actually, speaking of that content, with the alpha out and people actually playing it, we are kind of doing like this official phase 2 of the project that we are entering right now. And it's something where people may be a little afraid to discuss, like to kind of tackle head on, but it's the subject of like raising money, and so you can continue like funding the project and continue working on the project, because you need money in order to live, and in order to live, you need to live in order to make the game. So it's as simple as that.
It's simple math, folks.
Simple survivability rates. So with this new phase 2, some people who've never kind of like done their own projects may be wondering why people pick certain times to actually start raising money. Sludge, can you kind of get into that a little bit?
Well, we think we're really at a breaking point where we've invested like 1.5 years in this project to get to our first alpha, and we don't want to take another 1.5 years to get through our demo. So the way we're going to be able to move faster is by raising money and being able to hire people and get the team a little more solidified and start producing at a quicker pace. So we're at a stage now where we think it's time to go to the next level, and that means we're going to take a step forward and being a little more business oriented. And so that means we're going to need funding, and we're not talking a ton of funding. We're going to just be raising a few $1,000s right now. That's just going to be targeted toward helping us complete our demo and getting that out to a wider audience.
And this is primarily just to be able to find like these small goals that we know we can attain.
Yeah,
that we can do in a reasonable amount of time, so we can actually push forward and reach it.
Right. And I heard a great quote recently that said, goals without deadlines are just dreams. And so we want to make sure that we're not just being stuck in this dream phase forever and ever. You know, we want to make sure that we're setting deadlines and setting goals and making actions to meet those. And that, you know, any way we do it, like that involves getting involved more seriously. And that means that we need to raise money and get some people that really like what we're doing with the Alpha 1 and want to support us to do more and more.
Yeah. So if people are kind of interested in this kind of discussion where we actually go about how we complete the project in a sense, you know, we'll try to discuss that. If you guys don't really care for that, you can let us know in the comments. So if we're going to be raising money, obviously, you know, we're not basically begging for it. We want to provide content for you guys as well, and not just the game. We completely take it to heart when anyone donates any amount to us and their belief in our project, and we kind of want to pay that back. So in order to do that, we have obviously, you know, access to the alphas and any future betas and the demo, of course. But then there's also there's discussions of merchandise, which is, you know, actual physical objects you guys can hold, and also like have something to show your support for the game. Then there's also content, you know, kind of like the podcast, kind of like the some of the YouTube videos that we've been putting out. But then there's this new content that we've been working on, and we've discussed this a little bit before with Eric on our short stories. Eric, can you kind of give us an idea of what your plans are for these short stories and what you hope to provide for future readers?
Okay, so my goal for these short stories is to obviously introduce you to the world and give you these little stories that will tie into the experiences that you have in Gears of Eden as you're playing. But first of all, I want them to kind of separate themselves just a little bit so that you don't need to read these stories to fully enjoy Gears of Eden. And I also want to make sure that these stories don't just exist as like world building dumps or setting dumps. I want these stories to have a purpose like of their own, of something to talk about that is relevant to actual life.
Yeah, it's something it's something I think some people forget, especially in professional media, like whether it's an actual book or TV shows or movies. Some people sometimes forget that when you are telling a story, there needs to be a purpose to the story.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, it's not one of those kind of like encyclopedia books where you get to, you know, see us kind of ramble about, oh, here's this asteroid with this interesting quirk, and
you know, actually, so I didn't want to pick on anyone when I was talking about this before, but I can pick on Harry Potter, right? It's big enough that like I'm not gonna really hurt Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
So there's the Pottermore thing, which my girlfriend is a huge Harry Potter fan. She loves Pottermore. And there are tons and tons of people who love Pottermore because it takes the world that you already know and it just adds more to it. Like it paints a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And I think there is value in that. But for me, when I try to read Pottermore, I'm always like stuck thinking like that none of it really matters. Like it's very cool that it exists, but it doesn't affect any of the stories that I read or that I have.
It has no context to any of the main storylines.
These stories don't heighten my understanding of what happened in Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I also believe it is very true for stories that have absolutely no context, like our universe, where we actually do have no story with it. So just kind of throwing like random facts out, you know, actually has no meaning to you guys, and we want you guys to actually enjoy these stories. So
yes.
So we will be letting you guys know when the short story is released. We will be kind of going on Twitter, Facebook, basically all social media, so you guys can, you know, get your first read on it, and it will be free. So if you guys just want to read a little quick story, I think you'll enjoy it because I did.
Eventually, we'd like these to be part of that campaign, like fundraising campaign.
Yeah,
but we don't want to ask you to pitch in for something that you have no way to to discern the quality of. We want people to go into it. People will say like, hey, I read these stories from this same group, the same writer. And because of that, I know I can feel confident putting money into this.
Yeah. And I will say I enjoyed reading the story too. And like, I didn't realize when we were first starting this how much effort was going to go into each story. So working in this process together, I can see like Eric's put a ton of work into this, and then Michael and myself have been doing some editing, and it's a lot of time that ends up going into it. So part of this is also just, making sure we're putting a value on our time and valuing ourselves. And so we're going to give away some content for free, but then we also are going to want to have some value attached to some of this content in the future. So we hope you guys are on board and appreciate that.
A little sneak peek in one of the tiers, though, is that we are going to be doing like this small little fundraising to get Eric a sandwich. It was in his initial contract, and we want to make sure that Eric gets the sandwich he feels he deserves.
He's been waiting for the sandwich forever.
Tonight, I wanted a snack because I was a little hungry, but I wasn't hungry for a whole meal. I didn't want to waste food on just my level of hungriness. So what I did is I went to my fridge and I got the one thing I could find, a carrot. I'm so hungry.
Are you so hungry for a sandwich?
I would love a sandwich.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Let's help Eric with his hunger. So let's get to that. So, real quick, before we move on to the next segment, and I know you guys want to move on to that next segment, we're going to be talking a little bit about podcast reviews. If you're enjoying the show and you want to help us out, you can leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. I know I do some of my favorite podcasts because I want to let them know that they're doing a good job. If you want to do the same for us and boost our ego, you can do so by leaving a review, which actually helps increase our visibility for other people and lets them give us a try, and hopefully they can get some knowledge or inspiration from the podcast. You can also leave a comment on our website at www.gearsofeden.com just to let us know what you think. It also lets us get a better idea of what we can be doing to improve the podcast. We really appreciate your support, as it allows us to continue doing what we want to do, which is pursue our artistic projects. Thank you, and with that, we'll get back to the show. So I think that's going to kind of wrap it up for some of the Gears of Eden updates until the next podcast, at least, guys, right?
Yep.
With that, we're going to be moving on to my favorite portion of the podcast, which is inspiration. A simple but important thing. I've asked the guys here to give an example of inspiration from their own lives. And this can come either from entertainment, news, internet, really anything that does one thing: inspire. And this is to kind of give you guys an idea of what we use to help pursue our projects. Eric, I hear you got a good inspiration for us this week.
So it actually ties into the ad read you just did.
Uh-oh.
When doing a new thing, in this case, the new podcast, there's that phase where like nobody knows about it. You're just sort of speaking into the void. And for me, since I'm such a shy person, the notion of speaking into the void is kind of comforting. But recently, like last week, I learned that people actually listen to this podcast. At first, I was terrified by this because who wants to hear what I'm saying? I can barely get through a sentence.
People.
Then I realized, like, people aren't just like listening passively. We've gotten like jokes told back at us on the Gears Bean Twitter.
Yeah, that's been actually pretty great.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
That was amazing.
You got picked on one time for a joke we were making at your expense at one point. That was great. And it was like, and as scary as it is to know that people are actually listening to this, like, yeah, someone's actually listening to this, it is so much, it is like this huge challenge that is being like handed to us to do a good job with it. When I'm able to not be terrified of it, I just want to do better. Like, I want to be a better podcast person. As goofy as that sounds.
Aww.
I'm even, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I am much less opposed to doing this every week. And it's all
awesome.
Thanks to the people who are actually listening and encouraging me to keep doing it. So thank you.
Yeah, that's actually a good realization. I didn't realize that.
Well, hopefully we all get more comfortable doing this, because I'm still pretty nervous. But as we continue, hopefully
it still sucks. It's fun, but it's terrifying.
That's with anything anything new that you're doing, and that you make a great point, Eric. It's terrifying when you're trying something and you realize how much you don't know about a certain thing. But you got to keep doing it anyway, because if you don't do it, you're not going to make any progress at all.
Yeah. You got to keep going. One day when we're like in the middle of season 2 of Reaching Eden, we should listen back to some of these early episodes and just, see how far we've come.
Ooh, that would be interesting development for Eric if he would actually listen to a previous podcast.
That would be a big step.
No. But actually, when I'm writing or when I'm just like figuring out how I feel on a topic, I think about it out loud.
Yeah.
So that I can hear specifically where I don't understand the subject, so that I can go learn that or think about it more and figure it out. Because I never want to have that thing where I have to be talking and then I'm like, I never want to have that thing where I'm talking and like, oh shoot, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, actually, I think that reminds me of like certain adage where basically when you're trying to get a better understanding of a subject, and I think I remember this from college, where basically you only truly know a subject when you're able to teach it to other people, because you can have all these internal processes within your brain, and they can make sense to you because your brain is a weird thing where it can make up a bunch of words and you can understand what you're trying to get through. But the only way you can truly understand something is when you're able to convey those messages to other people, and they're able to make sense of it in their own brain.
Well, when you're thinking about something, you're able to make these like connections between topics that connection might be there, but you're not forming that connection like in a concrete fashion that is necessary for like real understanding and real communication of that topic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find that too. Like, you really solidify things when you have to explain it to someone else or teach it to someone else, and I really get what you're saying there.
Which is actually, he's revealed for the podcast. We don't know what we're doing, so we're just trying to explain it to you guys to check if we do.
You joke with that's like what I'm doing right now with my writing.
No, I the sad thing was I wasn't joking, so... This is a learning process for us too, guys. It never does well for anyone when they try to kind of project this impression of yourself to other people that you do know what you're doing when you really don't.
I mean, you should go through life like always wanting to learn more about, whatever you're interested in, whatever you're exposed to. So
I have a good thought on that, where if you are constantly in a state of like learning and like going through new experiences, that is actually the way you become more adaptable and become like a better learner. Because I think the difference between a student and a teacher is the student is learning as well, but the master has only mastered learning.
Ooh.
Yeah. Dropping some knowledge on y'all.
I don't know what to say to follow that.
Right? It was so great. Well, while that kind of sinks in for you guys, Sledge, do you want to talk a little bit about your inspiration?
Yeah, I have a couple exciting things this week. So the first one I hope is something that we all took inspiration from, and that was Merric Gaming's video playthrough of the Gears of Eden Alpha.
Which actually relates to the earlier inspiration from Eric.
Yes. Merric Gaming, you have made us so happy.
Yeah, it was so great. So, he does this great playthrough, and I gotta say, like, just his personality and enthusiasm made the video so much more interesting than just like what little gameplay we actually had available. So I just found him to be super entertaining. And then the fact that, he enjoyed the game, he understood what we were trying to do, and he was just like brainstorming what the game could be and really hitting a lot of points that we have planned ahead for the future. So he could sort of see a very similar vision that we have for the game, and just all that really, that connectivity made me feel so good about what we're doing, and just to see somebody just enjoy it so much that he's having so much fun sharing it with other people, that I don't know if it gets better than that. So thank you so much.
Well, I think the big thing about that was just he was being interactive. Just being able to kind of give his honest feedback about something, and it opened up the opportunity for us to respond back, which is phenomenal. It's almost an addicting process, so I can understand why people get so excited like whenever people talk about their projects.
Yeah, it was a great boost from all the hard work we put in, and we got it out there, and we couldn't ask for a better response than that video. So yay!
Yeah. I think it says a lot when I've been working on the game for like the year and a half, and so I've been there through a lot of the stages. So like really nothing was really that new for me when the alpha came out. Being able to then watch a video just about someone playing the alpha and give me like renewed interest in the game was amazing.
Yeah, and I was also watching it like, of course, we know where everything is on the asteroid and where like there's a base and other stuff. So it's kind of interesting to follow him, and like our perspective is a little different because at least for me, I'm like, I wonder if he goes that way, he's gonna find something really interesting, and then he doesn't. He goes the other way, and you're like, oh, too bad. You're gonna have to play it again. So
it's part of our plan.
Yeah, just having that hidden knowledge made it probably another level of fun for us just to observe, and I don't know, that might be a little odd.
Well, he put so much work into it. It has to add something for our experience to see someone interacting with it.
Yeah.
Like that's something, I'd say, a perspective that only we have.
Yeah,
for this game.
yeah, that's very true. Very, very neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what else we can get from Merric Gaming, and actually just anyone else who wants to share their experiences with Gears of Eden. Well, you had another inspiration, didn't you, Sledge?
I do. So you guys know that I've been, for the last 3 years, working on this short film called The Recursion Theorem. It was actually filmed 3 years ago and then was in post-production for like a year and a half, and then it went on the festival circuit for a year. And it's been a long time coming, but the film finally got to a place where it's out of the festivals and we can legally now put it online and release it. So
that is awesome.
It's amazing. So it just went up today. It went online, and so it's just a big relief. And people that have supported this project 3 years ago are now finally getting to see it. And I'll be doing a lot in the future to promote the film, but it's also a stage for me where it's sort of that project is more in the rear view now, and I'm looking more ahead to Gears of Eden and being focused on Gears of Eden. But we'll post a link in the show notes if anything's interested. I don't know how much the two audiences for these projects cross over, but The Recursion Theorem is a very Twilight Zone inspired psychological fiction short film drama, and it's done in this black and white noir style, so it has a lot of influence from Hitchcock and Wells and Kubrick and a lot of classic films from those type of filmmakers. So if that's your thing, check it out in the show notes, and it's completely free. It'll be on the website that we'll link, and see if you enjoy it.
Well, I'll say one thing. It's awesome that, you finally kind of, you're done with it in terms of like you finally got it released and you kind of finally hit the final stages. I think it's important for people to kind of see that if a product is finally finished.
Yeah.
You're right. Whenever they kind of give you early support and want to help believe in your vision, and then you go through the work and you don't let those people down, there's this final closure period where you can finally say, this is it. This is all that we've been working on, guys. I hope you enjoy it and just kind of get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. So it very much feels like that sense of closure, and hopefully, I'm putting it in the inspiration segment because it does inspire me that as we're sort of kicking off now on Gears of Eden, we're at an earlier stage of that, one day we'll go through that whole cycle and get back to where we have that sense of closure and have gotten the game out to people. So it's definitely inspiring to have that project wrapping up that phase, as I'm looking forward to this project, entering sort of it's still a pretty early, middle phase.
It's also cool just to kind of have something, have proof that, we can get stuff done. So suck it, kindergartner kid from the playground. I can get this game finished.
Man, in kindergarten, I got picked on one day because I wore my Pikachu shirt, and I never wore that shirt again.
Oh, man.
Screw that kid.
Oh, man. Was it a 24-year-old just yelling at you how they're going to get their game done?
It was really weird. He was 24 years old. I was like 6, 5 even, and he was just really aggressive about it.
Oh man, that's weird. I know my experience wasn't anything like that. Yeah, that's great. I'm really happy for you, Sledge, being able to get that done.
And if anyone, as someone who didn't work on the movie at all, if you like good things, especially things that are free, this is free, right?
It is free, yeah. I mean, people can donate if they want, but you can access the film completely for free.
If you like good free movies, you'll love this. It was like a genuinely really good experience for me.
Thanks, man.
Super emphasis on the free. Did you guys hear that? It was free.
Free. It is rude not to watch it. Yeah. Basically what we're getting at.
Yeah, we're just giving it to you guys, and you guys just have to accept it.
What, you think you're so good you can't watch a free thing?
And if you like it, you can click the thumbs up button and leave a comment. And if you don't like it,
Sludge is so polite. We're like getting ready to fight him.
if you don't like it, just keep that to yourself and move on.
Yeah, no reason to hurt feelings here, people. We're all humans here. So speaking of free videos, that's what an example of what my inspiration is for this week. It is a free video on a thing called YouTube. It's this big video sharing site. You guys may have heard of it. And kind of a disclosure here, I am a huge anime nerd. I love all forms of anime since I was a kid. Kind of grew up on the Toonami scene. So it's been just kind of a part of my life. So I do enjoy the occasional videos about anime, specifically sometimes when they kind of do like what they call video essays, I guess nowadays. And there's just one by, and if you don't believe that this is an anime channel, the name of the channel is Super Eyepatch Wolf, which I don't think you can get any more anime than that. Discussion that he was having on his video is said in the title, basically what makes a villain feel real.
Eye patch.
Eye patches, yes. There you go. It gives them that.
Bad guys have eye patches.
Yeah, it gives them that extra quirk. That's what makes them. That is a real villain. I see. but no,
that and the scar right over the eye. That's a good.
Yeah,
one.
There you go. It was actually more of a character discussion than a villain thing, which is why I kind of wanted to bring it up, because going through the editing process for the short story, I just got my creative juices flowing, just like for storytelling. And when you don't kind of go through the process normally, it actually becomes hard to vocalize what you like and what you don't like, and you have to justify the reasons for that. Otherwise, it becomes like a useless comment. So kind of my search for bettering like my vocabulary, bettering my language to get my message, to Eric and to Sledge. I kind of listened to people who were more experienced in that subject. One of the easiest things for me was to kind of look at these video essays about like animes that I enjoyed and see why I enjoyed them. Video basically is explaining why certain villains, and not just villains in anime, but like villains that you can find in stories, and explain why a certain villain is better than other villains. And it really comes down to being able to ignore two sides of the coin, which is like a good guy versus bad guy, and just look at it as two characters that have their own separate goals that just happen to really conflict against each other, and that's what creates drama, and that's what creates a good story. For example, he was going over this one character. At first, he kind of comes off as this like super big muscly guy that only wants to fight, but one of the turning points for his character, and like one of it, like the developments for it, was when he was talking with this other character and he offered him a drink. He said, no, thank you. I'll just have an orange juice. He kind of brought up a good point where it was those small little, like, if you can give the character preferences, likes and dislikes, ambitions, goals, all the things that would happen for a realistic character, that's what elevates a normal villain to a great villain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm like, I like orange juice. Maybe this guy's not so bad after all.
Exactly.
And it lets them have something that is more than just conflict.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
And the orange juice thing is, just kind of like this arbitrary point he picked, but
yeah,
it goes to show that a good villain isn't some person who just like says, just
yeah.
I want to destroy the world because I want ultimate domination.
Right.
that is not a believable.
They
character.
want to destroy the world and have global domination and the orange juice.
And the orange juice.
Yeah, but you don't want to have like one-dimensional characters that are just, I'm evil and blah, 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 I'm going to destroy everything. So I like that. And then I also like the opposite. I like when heroes are very flawed. So it's not really fun, like when you have like the knight in shining armor and they're perfect. Like to have a hero that also is not one-dimensional and has flaws, and it's sort of the reverse of that, is also makes for a much more interesting character.
Well, it allows like the heroic triumphs to actually feel like heroic triumphs.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, if you're a writer or you just kind of want to get a better understanding for why you like certain characters, or even more specifically certain villains, I suggest you take a look at the video, see, watch it through and see if you kind of agree with some of his points. I thought it kind of opened up my eyes to get a better understanding for why I like certain stories over
Now,
others.
If someone is not necessarily a fan of anime, would they still get something out of this video that could apply to them?
Absolutely. I think there's going to be some things that they don't understand, like when he's going over like a certain plot point, and that may seem weird to you. But the ultimate just guideline of what makes a good villain, I think doesn't require any anime experience.
Good to know.
I think something really cool about the whole video essay format, especially with topics like Super Eyepatch Wolf's anime stuff, is that it allows you to hear the words for how either you feel about something or hear the words to describe something in a way that it's hear something said in a way that you wouldn't have thought of on your own, but is still super convincing. No.
Relevant,
yes. It's just, I love watching Super Eyepatch Wolf. I love watching Mother's Basement because they're both two people who are very, very good with their word choice. Unlike some people I know. Me.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Super Eyepatch Wolf, but when you said the name, I immediately wanted to Google it. So it's a very cool name. And
well, that's just great branding.
That is very good branding.
If you can learn nothing else from this guy, it's branding.
Yeah, exactly.
So get ready for the Super Eyepatch Gears of Eden Wolf game.
Deluxe.
I actually love it because of that, because I'm terrible with my words as well. And so when I watch one of these video essays and they I always have that moment of, yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say, but since I'm an idiot, I can't say it, but you did, so awesome.
But you're not an idiot, so thank you.
So before we finish up the podcast, we're going to talk about one of the favorite things that we like talking about, games. It's obviously a favorite of ours because we are making a game, so we kind of have to like it. But this is also to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight of what we like and kind of what we use to chill and relax. I want to also kind of give our listeners a little game this week. It was something we kind of realized as we were discussing just our brief topics before we went into this. There is an actual theme between all the games that we have played this week, and I want to see if you guys can actually get it. So with that, Eric, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing too much of this game because I have no self-control. I've been playing Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. I don't know how I started playing again. I had stopped for so long because, I don't know, I just stopped playing it. But I got the bug recently and I had to play it. And then all last weekend was just burnt away playing this crazy game where I just have these crazy weapons and fight these giant monsters. And then it's been happening again this weekend.
Quick question. Are bugs something that you can hunt in Monster Hunters?
Dude, there are such big bugs.
So that's how you got the bug.
So there's these little things that fly around just generally on maps that are all annoying. Because they'll poke you and you're I'm fighting here, you're not a problem, but you've stopped me from my attack. But then there's also the Southest Queen, which is insane. Because it has this giant bug on it that it uses as that weapon. It's a whole thing. You guys should play it. Everyone should play Monster Hunter. I want everyone playing it so they make more Monster Hunter content for me.
Eric has been kind of harping on us to get on this for a while, especially this last 2 weeks since he has been playing it a lot. So it piqued my interest enough, so I kind of read up to it. I think I may be playing the Monster Hunter World game that's coming out, because that seems to be...
Dude, that's going to be so good.
Yeah, it seems to be the perfect entry point for new players.
And is that a PC platform?
It is going to be PlayStation 4 and Xbox One first, and then later on it's coming to PC.
Oh, okay.
I will say, Michael, and to all of the audience, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, despite its annoying name, is an amazing starting point. Every Monster Hunter game has the same problem in that there's this crazy, it's not even a ramp up of difficulty, but it's just it's a matter of learning the controls and learning how the game behaves. And they know this, so they make the beginning of the game very, very basic. And it's so boring and so stupid. And the only reason that anyone knows that the game is good is because they made a bad decision in that beginning part. But if you can make that bad decision and stick with that beginning part until you get to the good stuff, which comes not right away, but right after the bad stuff. It's it goes bad to good immediately. It's so worth it. Especially if you can play with friends, because it's a great co-op game. Michael, the 3DS has co-op capabilities. We could have fun with it. I want to play with someone.
You're your desperate pleas kind of fall on deaf ears because I'm always of the belief that new is always better, and Monster Hunter World is new.
It's not even out yet. It doesn't exist.
When does it come out?
That's how new it is.
It comes out, I think, early 2018.
Ooh, okay.
See, you can't get any newer than not even existing.
I should warn you that when that game comes out, my productivity is going to take a downturn. Oh my god.
So it's funny that we were talking about anime earlier because I'm also interested in manga. And there's this famous manga artist, and he has this famous kind of like story about him where his productivity takes a huge dive whenever a Monster Hunter game comes out. And it's actually to like the scorn of many fans that every time a Monster Hunter game comes out, he stops doing anything and just wants to play the game instead. So I'm a little worried about that, like how addictive that game is.
I will say, that guy just has bad productivity, period. Like, there's a lot of content in Monster Hunter. There's not enough to slow him down as long as he's been slowed down. That's just on him.
My big thing is I don't want to buy a game then have the newest game come out. Like, I will be waiting for Monster Hunter World, and I am excited.
Fine then, I'll sell the G rank all on my own.
Right, I believe.
You don't even know what that is.
Nope.
I don't know if I don't believe myself. You shouldn't say that.
All right. Well, sounds like a fun game, Eric. I won't be playing it, but
oh yeah, there's other games we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, there are other
still
games.
On this.
Yeah, there are other games we can't talk about. Sledge, to give the readers their next hint, what game have you been playing this week?
All right, the game I've been playing is Fortnite. So I don't know if you guys are that familiar with it, but basically it's a game where you...
Just so you know, Sledge, I've been looking forward to this game coming out for like 5 years.
Oh, I
know,
did
me
not
too.
know. All right, awesome.
I remember their first like article on Game Informer, like when they were first starting the project. It looked so good, and I've been waiting for it ever since.
Might be better to talk about it than me then, because I did not know much about it at all.
Oh no, I haven't been like keeping up with it because I didn't want to like. I don't like waiting for things, so I don't like think about it actively. I just like I have it in my mind, like eventually I'll have it.
So it's out, you can get it, but I think it's going to go like, free to play model next year. So I know some people are holding off and waiting. I did jump in a little early. Yeah, I guess the premise of the game is that it sort of combines fort building with zombie apocalypse, and you can build your fort and protect it and build all these traps, and then the hordes come in and you have to fight them off, and you do it in a co-op system with some other players, and it's a lot of fun. And I really like the animation style in it. The artwork's really good, and there's actually some AI robot characters in it, which sort of reminded me of Gears of Eden a little bit, so that was really cool to see. And I read, just recently, I think that they've sold over 1 million copies, so it's been a pretty good success for Epic, and congrats to them. And my only criticism of the game is it seems, I'm still in the early phases of it, but it seems really easy. Like, I haven't yet felt that I'm challenged, that I'm not going to survive one of the onslaughts. So it's definitely getting more challenging as I progress, but I feel like it starts off a little too easy, maybe.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I was also one of those people, Eric, that saw the game when it first kind of was revealed, and just the whole premise of it, the trailer that came out with it, just everything about it made it seem so interesting. And I forgot about it. I completely forgot about that game until they released it recently, and I was like, oh, that was the game that I was so pumped up to see. So I think that was also kind of a fail on their part, but apparently not. I guess if they're able to sell 1 million units.
Yeah.
So I take that back. But
I'm going to see how much it's going for right now, actually, just to see how much they've made just on sale.
I also find it interesting seeing some of the gameplay recently of it. It seems a little different than what I remember, but
oh, really?
Of course, my memory is absolutely terrible. Ask anyone who knows me. My memory is just bad, where I probably completely misremembered it. But just to kind of give you guys a little insight, the way I remembered it was more akin to Gears of War, Horde mode, or any of the Horde modes that kind of been zombie mode that you've been kind of seeing with the new games, where it was kind of where it wasn't easy, where it was just kind of this battle for survival, just to kind of see how long you could survive these constant onslaught and attacks by zombies.
Yeah. Well, and the style of this and the fact that it seemed pretty easy to start off made me feel like it was geared toward a younger audience, and I'm not sure if that's true or not. But the other thing is, it's actually the systems within the game are really in depth. There's a lot of different things you can do in terms of like sending teams away on missions, and it's a very robust and very complex system, like outside of the regular gameplay. So there is a complexity there, but there's also this very simple feeling to the game, and I that's definitely intentional on their part, and I think they're just probably going for a very wide audience range in terms of age, and that probably explains most of it.
Honestly, that's smart.
Yeah.
Like, I love games that can like get you able to play it at a low level, and then if you're so into it, you want to get that like higher, more intensive experience. That content and that skill ceiling is there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think it, when we're talking about Gears of Eden, and we've talked about the audience a little bit, but I think there's actually, a lot of potential there for us to also have like a pretty wide age range. So we'll see as we narrow it down and what we do with the narrative exactly. But I know that just the look of the game and the subject matter of the game alone is something that would attract a younger audience as well as an older audience. So
yeah,
it's very interesting. I think it's always good to have those types of games out there that can to get a large audience.
Oh yeah, and that aren't just violence fests.
Yeah,
I remember there was a time in gaming where it was like if a game came out and it was like a real game, like air quotes a real game, it was going to be like an M-rated thing, and they would have some crazy like blood splatter physics.
Yes.
And I'm a very squeamish person. I don't want a bunch of blood and gore in my game. I actually went to play Dead Rising 2 and then had to stop because of how bloody it was. I love when a game can just look good.
Yeah, and I think the important part of that is just being accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
So it is interesting you say that it may be going free to play, so that does actually hold me off on taking a look at it right now. But if that does turn out to be true, I will be definitely one of the first people to give it a try, because it does look really interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
All right, well, that leaves the last for best, and the game that I've been playing this week. This is kind of be your final hint, guys. The game that I've been playing this week is Hollow Knight, and
it's so good,
which is phenomenal. It is
amazing.
Really? Wow. It's a platformer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a platformer, and it's made by this indie company called Team Cherry. They definitely got a fan in me just playing this game, because it is one of those like gems that you find every once in a while, just with how clean it is, how like beautiful it can be in its execution and its like art. It's one of those games where I can't really find a fault with it, and it's amazing how the more you play it, the more you kind of like fall in love with it. And it's basically just kind of this, like you said, it's kind of a platformer, but it's also like this kind of just like exploration, like 2D scroller combat as you kind of go through this underground world and basically discover like this ancient civilization. And you kind of meet all these different characters that, it's not actually voiced really. It's, whenever you talk to someone, they kind of like make grunts or like just noises.
There's a very interesting thing about their voices. They're saying actual words.
Ooh.
They are speaking, I forget which way it goes. Either they're speaking Japanese with a French accent, or they're speaking French with a Japanese accent.
That is actually...
And dialect, really.
Yeah, that's actually very cool.
I'm such a fan of this game, and I had to like pore over all the little details I could find.
Yeah.
Like all of the animation and assets are all hand drawn. And there's like some lighting things they do that are computer generated, but by and large, it is all just by hand.
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the big things. It kind of reminds me of like some very like beautiful like Studio Ghibli movies, and just like how like the backgrounds are work of art on themselves, but then also just seeing like the moving parts and how that's still done with like loving care. It's a very beautiful game that I can't get enough of looking at visually. But the gameplay itself is phenomenal. Just it feels like very crisp. It feels like very responsive to what you're doing with it. And then there's also kind of like the story and the writing that goes with it. And me hearing that fact about the voices actually just makes it that much cooler, because the story it's one of those stories that we've discussed on the podcast before, where I think it's definitely one of our favorites, where it's not really telling you this, like, it's not like telling you the story to your face. It's more of like you feel rewarded when you're kind of talking to all these characters and you're like able to piece together this story on your own.
Yeah. and you're able to like put together your own story of like your events, like the things you've done.
Mm-hmm.
The time you go too far right and you find that crazy knight with the giant sword and the big old belly. I thought he was a boss. It turns out he's just a dude, and I was like,
I thought the same.
Oh, this is There's nothing really like special about him as once the game gets going, but at that point in time, it's like, how could anyone handle this boss?
Well, I definitely say if you have been on the fence for Hollow Knight, or if you haven't even heard of it before, definitely check it out. Give it a look, because I honestly think the game can pretty much sell itself if you give it a fair shot. All right, so that's going to be wrapping up the Gears of Eden podcast, guys. I know we were talking a little bit about the challenge for the common theme between all the games that we were discussing. And so we kind of wanted to give you guys a chance to think about it a little bit more. So if you want to tweet at us at Gears of Eden and let us know what the common theme between each game that me, Sledge, and Eric were playing, and we'll be coming up with a special prize for you. That's going to be it for the podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. If you have any questions or comments, you know this, but we always want to hear from you and tell us what you think of the podcast. You can contact us and find out more about Gears of Eden if you want to at gearsofeden.com or on Twitter or Facebook. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about the things that we've discussed today, you're going to be able to find the links in the blog entry for the podcast on our website as usual. We will be back in a couple of weeks with podcast number 8. That's gonna be fun. Until then, we are the Gears of Eden development team. Thank you, Sledge, for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you, Eric, for joining us as well.
Absolutely.
We're the Gears of Eden development team, and we're reaching Eden. We hope you join us.